Welcome. This is Astrology Insight Now, a weekly forecast program with astrology and other ways to help you make the most of your week and to heighten confidence for daily life. It's run by Pamela Cuccinell, that's me, the astrologer, and I invite you to find out more about my work at insightoasis.com. I look forward to your joining us every week. Please share with your friends, and here we go. The week of February 9th, 2026. How about that Super Bowl? More importantly, how about that Bad Bunny? I will actually be writing about Bad Bunny and his, I believe, new moon in Pisces that he was born with. And it's interesting as I release the forecast for 2026 Fire Horse, which will happen later this week. I speak about the eclipses that kick off this Fire Horse year on February 17th, and then the one that follows on March 3rd. And that energy that is so much about igniting the greater collective and inspiring is a lot of what has been aggravated for some people, but also ignited to bring, ideally, greater connections and acceptance throughout our planet. And music, of course, is one of the greatest universal languages. I am historically a visual artist, and I love art in all its forms, but never really had any musical aptitude other than the enjoyment of it. And I used to love to dance. But the ability to allow sound to uplift, to connect, to promote empathy is universal. It doesn't need really language. I mean, case in point, opera, which my brother claims no one really loves opera, but I do. Anyway, opera, one doesn't have to understand Italian, German, French, however the opera is sung. It's more the movement of the music and how it is conveyed, the passion and pathos that a good singer puts into its articulation. And if people don't want to get up and dance when they hear someone like Bad Bunny sing, which he mainly sings about love, if you bother to interpret the lyrics, love, connectivity, injustice, pride, all things that are really hard to argue with as themes that connect us all in humanity. Anyway, my tangent about Bad Bunny. So on Monday, the 9th, the moon in the sign of Scorpio, as it was during the Super Bowl. And yes, stirring up a lot of passion, positive and negative. And we're still in that arc of as the moon goes into a square hard aspect with Venus. So I don't anticipate that peace and love will reign after this showcase of talent that happened in a forum that is about basically bashing heads in football. On Monday, with that moon in Scorpio, we are going to continue to hear a lot of deep controversy and polarities about whatever happened over the course of the weekend, but also what is being brought up on the world stage. So roiling emotion, A good time to look into finances and figure out how those things are working for you or not working for you. Really look at it with a critical lens of understanding. Is this how you want to be moving? And is it creating something that really is allowing you to be and do whatever it is you want to make happen in your life going forward? It's not always easy to research this, but for people, for instance, who might be investing or looking at certain things as, oh, I want to ride this wave, ask yourself, is this something I also believe in that I want to ride the wave of? And as we question more how money is magnified and what it's invested in, we will continue to see shifts in economies in the months going forward of this year. So overall today, Monday, is a rather intense day. I would say spend time with people who you're going to be able to meet in ways of understanding. If you do find yourself locking horns or push pull in certain situations, recognize that this is a time when we're being asked, are we feeding both sides of what makes us feel emotionally whole? Because when the moon's in the sign of Scorpio and it eventually will make a square to Venus, part of what's happening is we're being asked our needs for how we feel comfort and be nurtured and loved. Are they in alignment with what we feel we want and how we think of ourselves as profiting from situations around us? And these things need to be reconciled and balanced. And for some of us, it's easier than others. For some of us, we feel a very nice flow with this is what I want, and I feel sweet spot, and needs are being met, and it's all good. But for other people, there is a conflict with at times feeling that if I go for this and grab that, then it's at the cost of something that I also need or want in my life. And how do we reconcile those two things? And sometimes it's really about compromise and weighing what is it that makes me feel whole? What is it that makes me feel as though I can meet my eyes in the mirror and feel like I am a person that I love and respect? So important. If we don't start with ourselves, then it's really hard to look for that in other people. You can't get validation from the outside world if you're not working on doing that for yourself and seeing where that comes from. So for some of us, this can be a day of not necessarily crisis, although it may be, but also a day of reckoning. How do I balance those things so that I'm feeling in control of what it is I can control? Because there are limits, of course. So it might be an example would be, let's say, someone, good friend or a partner, wants you to go to the theater with them. It's going to cost you X number of dollars. And you would like to accommodate your friend, but you don't really have the money for that right now, or it's not really something you want to spend your money on. So it may require a hard choice. Either I do this to accommodate my friend and I feel okay about it, or I state why this is just something that's very uncomfortable for me and I don't want to do, but I'd love to do X, Y, or Z with my friend. So it's those kind of conflicts that sometimes require us to be straight with ourselves as well as a loved one, a friend, or a boss. No. How do you draw the line and what's it going to cost you? And that might be what some of us are facing on this day. Not necessarily bad or good, but it's really important to understand your self motivations and the decisions you make. So Tuesday the 10th, that moon is also in the sign of Scorpio as the day begins. But depending on where you are in the world, it goes void, of course, at 2:01 a.m. Eastern Time. So Eastern Time, people may well be asleep unless they're night owls. And then it enters the sign of Sagittarius relatively shortly afterwards at 2:22 a.m. Now, Sagittarius is very different energetically than Scorpio. It's a fire sign, it's mutable, it moves quickly, and it is in a zone which may really ignite and excite a sense of spontaneous potential and wanting to go for certain things, especially in the morning, getting very jazzed, very energized, very directed. The thing that's very important to notice on this day and the succeeding day into Thursday, while the moon is in Sag, is make sure what you say is understood, because we can be very excited by things and want to get ideas across. But if we're not clear, it's not going to be understood in the way we would like it to be understood. So we have to be sure that someone echoes back what it is we think we said or what we thought we meant, so that we understand and are on the same page. And it may be hard to get certain people on the same page. And this goes into Wednesday, the 11th, when people with a lot of fire or ideas of what they're exhilarated by and want to pull off can feel a sense of, I'm not getting the support I want, or assuming that you have the support and then turning around and realizing, oh no, you don't. So it's super important, if you're the person who's jazzed and really moving forward, that you recognize, do you have the support, can you actually pack all that in one day or contract? Can you bring it to fruition? Can you bring it home? Can you make it happen? Do you have the players involved who are also supporting your ability to do this? Or do you think by your fire and passion alone, you can hit touchdown back to Super Bowl and make it happen, realize it? Well, maybe not. It becomes much more doable if you do have to act alone or move in that way, when you recognize that's the situation. If you're assuming or hoping that people are going to back you up, you may look around and find out they can't. Another thing that is a very real thing that can happen at this time of year in February, depending on where you live, is that people can get sick. Stuff happens. The flu's out there, colds are out there. It's really, really cold, depending on where you are. Absolutely ferocious climate change shifts are happening in certain parts of certain countries that haven't experienced this bitter frigidity. And that can stop exuberance in its tracks. So it's very important, if you're in the middle of launching something or want something to happen, that you're paying attention to what is actually achievable and what maybe you're going to have to push on your own momentum. Keep in mind, we're in the waning moon cycle. We're heading towards that solar eclipse that happens next week and launches and begins that fire horse year, new moon in Aquarius. So we are much better off this week finishing up tasks, clearing the desks for things we want to start next, being very, very clear-eyed of what's possible to finish and what maybe needs to be shelved or maybe put away or not something we're really going to put our energy into at this point in time, or maybe going forward. The moon goes void of course at 2:29 p.m. on Thursday the 12th. And I'll say this briefly for people who don't know what void of course means. It means that the moon is no longer making geometric aspects to another planetary energy before it changes signs. So since the moon has so much to do with the emotional weather, if there's no connection, there's no glue, and there's no investment in how the thing actually carries out. That's brief. It enters the next sign, Capricorn, at 2:44 p.m. And now we're in much better momentum as we finish up the week, really bringing it home, putting the bows on projects, making things come to completion. If we felt we were kind of slogging uphill or we weren't getting the answers we wanted or needed earlier in the week, now's when we can really put muscle in to seeing more results happen. And this is because Capricorn is a cardinal earth sign, so it has the wherewithal to look around and say, oh, okay, well, that's not working out. Let's do it this way, because it is determined energy to finish, complete, make happen, whatever the goal was. But it's also very realistic and pragmatic about, that's not coming together. I'd like him to come on board, but he's not. And so how are we finishing the task? And it's not to say that you can't start anything at the end of a waning moon cycle, because sometimes people do. There are reasons for that. Contracts come to fruition. The house becomes available. There are reasons why we want to take action. But ideally, we take into account other things that are going on so that we make it the best we can under the situation. And yes, okay, Jupiter is still retrograde. So anything contractual we want to weigh and consider. And waning moon cycle, well, maybe. But that moon in Capricorn is supporting, especially depending on who you are energetically, to maybe have it happen at this point in time. I would wait until late afternoon or evening once we pass some kind of rockier aspect. And then when we get into Friday the 13th, of all things, we are in a space that is inviting in a lot more auspicious things to be happening, maybe too many, It may feel like, oh, boom, 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 so much so soon. And that is highly possible. But it can also really give a push forward for helping whatever you want to complete or make happen get completed and happen. We can use this weekend with a lot of that really planning, getting ideas, starting to consider the architecture of what we want to launch and kick off in this next lunar cycle, which is also got that momentum of the shift into the fire horse energy and the eclipse igniting it. We are in a 1 year. 2025 was a 9 year. And that was also the year of the snake shedding skins. And now this 1 year, we had this little space and time that I didn't give any forecast for when it was the 1 year. And a lot of that is because, and I confess my birthday happened at the end of January. So for me, a lot of the switch from the solar calendar energy, which ends December 31st, and that space, that kind of limbo space of in between that and when the lunar year kicks off. And it's also at the end of that lunar year. So I'm still in that space of whatever the energy was of the lunar year. And in this case, the shedding skins of the snake and getting ready to move into fire horse energy was a space that I like to be in quietly before I talk about the energy that's really propelling us forward. And it doesn't mean that things don't happen in that 5-6 week time of when January 1st begins and we get into this lunar cycle. It's just I have my own personal energy. And being an Aquarius, I just sort of do it on my own drum. In this weekend, as we are on the threshold of what happens with this next lunar year, I really invite us to take that rich, fertile energy and use it in a way where whatever needs to be finished up is finished up, because we want to gallop into the new energy with force, momentum, and conviction. So the sweet spot time is Friday the 13th, sort of as of about 10:30 p.m. into Valentine's Day, the 14th, just after midnight, but it could just swing in nice energy through 8:31 p.m. when the moon goes void, of course. It's in Capricorn, the moon in Capricorn on Valentine's Day. So physical gestures of affection certainly will be appreciated. One thing I love about where I live now, Mexico, is Valentine's Day is not considered just for romance. I remember living in New York City, just seeing people race around with those red rose bouquets. And it's not like it's a bad thing to have it be all about romance. But when you see it as being about love and friendship, it's just, it makes it more. it's magnified. And so I think that's kind of perfect because the energy of Valentine's Day is when the sun is in the sign of Aquarius. And Aquarius is about friendship. That's what it's about. It's about how we connect with people in our community, people that reflect not necessarily who we are, but are happy to be in the space of who we are. So it's not unusual, for instance, for an Aquarius to have many different groups of friends. Aquarius is not a sign, usually, where the person has, oh, this is a group of friends who all do this. We travel around in packs, and these are the friends I've had since I was a kid. And it doesn't mean that an Aquarian doesn't have friends who they knew when they were young. But oftentimes they are attracted and have friendships with people from different walks of life, different interests, different cultures. That's very, very clear of people who have an interest in the expansion of community. Now, there are, as with any sign, places on the spectrum, like the real oddball keeps to themselves. Aquarius holds up, doesn't want to deal to the person who just all they do is network and hang out with people. So where are you on that spectrum? But on Valentine's Day, I invite all of us to connect to friends and the people we love, to share the joy of connections with those who make your world. Capricorn is the tangible. It's this is my world. This is the street I walk on. This is the work I do. This is my place of worship or where I sit and meditate. This is the woods I walk in to meditate and reflect. This is the dog I walk with. This is the food I eat. It's the stuff, the physical stuff of our lives. So in the sign of Capricorn, it's asking that we spontaneously move to recognize that in some way. So, however that works for you, a handshake, a phone call. Oh my goodness, a phone call as opposed to a text, a letter, a bouquet of flowers. Why not? Chocolates, food, an apple, whatever it is to just let someone know. Like that Stevie Wonder song. I just called to say, I love you. And it is an important thing for all of us to recognize and do it in front of the mirror. Remind yourself where the love begins, and that's within each of us. So the moon is void, of course, all evening in the sign of Aquarius after 8:31 p.m. And I think that's a wonderful envelope of time to just kind of drift with memories, perhaps of loved ones, perhaps who are no longer with you. It can be a time when we reflect on who we've loved and how we've loved, but also emphasize the present, who is in your life to love, yourself, your favorite pet, the neighbor that is always available if you need butter. Whoever it is you love, in whatever degree you love, it's important to bring recognition to that and expand it. And sometimes, especially on a day like today, on the 14th, it can be a bit of a shock. Wow, I actually love that person. I would never tell that person I love them because I don't want it to be misconstrued. But I love that person in the coffee shop, at my job, at the bodega, whoever it is who gives you that sense of human connection. Super important to recognize. We are here to relate and to love. That is the most important thing we do as human beings. And it is not always easy, nor is it meant to be. And the hardest thing to do is to love what is unlovable. Sunday the 15th, the moon enters Aquarius at 1:17 a.m. And then this is the lunar energy that is carrying us to that eclipse that happens on the 17th, which I will talk more about next week. So Sunday is a really great day to be thinking in terms of what am I making way for? What has to go? What needs to heal? How do I move past whatever is keeping me stuck? And you don't have to intellectually solve that. You simply have to recognize the stuckness that you want to move past. And here's the thing. When we enter into that eclipse energy of next week and that fire horse energy and really emphasize the 1 year, we are starting fresh. And that means sloughing off those old skins that tell us who we are, that keeps us stuck and keeps us small, because we are not here to be small. We are here to expand, to embrace, and flourish. You have been listening to Astrology Insight Now. Please share with your friends. And if you'd like to make a donation, you can do so at astrologyinsightnow.com. Have a stellar week, and we hope to see you next time.